Topic: Reference. Subtopic: What you should know about job references. What are employment references? Employment references are former colleagues and/or supervisors who can attest to your skills and qualifications. Potential employers will contact references to ask questions about you. Plan ahead and get your references in order before you need them. It will help you avoid scrambling to put together a list at the last minute. Some employers will request that references write you a letter of recommendation, also known as a reference letter. Make sure you know what the employer wants from your references. How to select and use references. When you are applying for jobs, you'll need to have a list of references ready. Typically, employers ask for about 3 references. Those references should be able to vouch for your skills, abilities, and qualifications as they relate to the jobs you apply for. Make sure to only ask people who you are confident will give you a positive reference. Consider asking previous employers, colleagues, business contacts, and others who know your professional abilities. Here's more about who to use for references when you apply for jobs and how your references can help your job search. How to ask for a reference. You want to ask for a reference in a way that gives the person an easy out if they do not feel they can give you a positive reference. Asking for a reference in the right way guarantees you will only get enthusiastic, positive references. You also want to provide the reference with all the information they need. For example, if they have to write you a letter, give them information on what to include, where to send it, and when it is due. Also, tell your references about the jobs you are applying for, so they can begin to think about how your skills and abilities match the jobs. Types of reference letters. There are several types of recommendation letters you can use for job searching, including academic recommendations from teachers or professors, references from employers, character references, and online recommendations on professional networking sites. First, academic recommendation letters. Academic recommendations include a variety of letters. These might be college recommendation letters, graduate school recommendation letters, letters from teachers, letters for teachers, and more. A well-written recommendation letter can help a student get accepted to college, graduate school, or another type of academic program or experience. Second, employment reference letters. Job seekers will often ask a former manager, colleague, or teacher to write them a letter of reference for employment. Some employers require references when considering candidates for a position, while others may give preference to potential employees who can provide this evidence of satisfactory performance in a previous role. If you are asked to write a reference letter, keep in mind that your goal is to prove that the person is a strong candidate for the job. Simply expressing your admiration won't be enough. The letter should focus on specific examples that show that the employee is a high performer. The letter should also be professional in appearance and be written in the business format and edited well. Third, personal reference letters. A character reference, also known as a personal reference, is a letter written by someone who knows the job candidate and can speak to his or her character and abilities. Unlike professional references, the person writing the reference is not an employer. When to use professional references. A professional reference is a reference from a person who can vouch for your qualifications for a job. This is the most common kind of reference. A professional reference should know you in a work-related capacity. He or she is typically a former employer, a colleague, a client, a vendor, a supervisor, or someone else who can recommend you for employment. If you are a recent college graduate with limited work experience, you might also be able to use a professor or college administrator as a professional reference. Review information on who makes the best professional reference, how to find out what he or she will say about you, and how to provide references to employers. When to use character and personal references. There are many times you might use a character reference, also known as a personal reference, in addition to or as an alternative to an employment reference letter. For example, if you are looking for your first job and have no professional references, a personal reference is a great option. If you are concerned about the reference your employer might give you, you can also add a personal reference to boost your application. A personal reference is someone who can speak to your character and abilities. This person typically knows you in a more personal capacity. A personal reference can be a neighbor, a volunteer leader, a coach, or even a friend. When employers conduct reference checks. When you are job searching, expect to have your references checked by prospective employers. Employers may also run a credit or background check on potential employees. Learn more about the kinds of questions employers will ask your references, and what your references are allowed to say about you. How to create a reference list. Employers will often ask you to send them a reference list as a part of your job application. When you provide a list of references to an employer, you should include your name at the top of the page. Then list your references, including name, job title, company, and contact information, with a space in between each reference. Each time you use someone as a reference, be sure to take the time to follow up with them on the status of your job search. Why you need professional references to get a job most of the time. Since employers typically use references to make hiring decisions, a lack of professional references can hurt your chances of getting a job and can even lead an employer to choose another candidate instead of you. References can help a hiring manager who is teetering between two candidates, affirm a gut feeling, or possibly provide insight into a question mark, although you should typically avoid personal references. They can be used in lieu of professional references on select occasions. For example, if you don't have previous work experience, or your previous employer has a no reference policy. A list of credible references should always be a tool in one's job hunting toolbox, but there is the slight possibility that your references may not be contacted, depending on the company you are applying to. It may also be the company's policy not to ask for references. I see this a lot with larger firms who may have other steps in place, such as certain tests and cross-department or role interviews. Regardless of the company's policies, it is still wise to have access to your professional references, just in case. Why bad references can hurt your job prospects. It is important to ask someone for their permission before adding them to your reference list. And remember to give them a heads up when you are applying for a new job. Inform them of the position you are applying for and which qualities you would like to be highlighted. This notification will prepare your reference for what's to come, minimizing the risk of being caught off guard and accidentally giving you a less than stellar reference. A bad reference is often imagined as a spiteful past employer who says slanderous things about you. However, due to employee defamation laws, it is uncommon for previous employers to spread negative lies about candidates. Instead, a bad reference is typically someone who is ill-prepared, quiet, or unresponsive. If a reference speaks in vague terms or gives short responses, it may reflect poorly on you. Most hiring managers will understand if a reference isn't as positive as you had hoped, so long as you have a genuine explanation for the discrepancies. Maybe you just didn't get along with a particular manager, or perhaps they are still aggrieved that you left the organization. However, if there's a pattern to the references, such as reports of poor performance or being difficult to manage, then this will be very damaging to your job prospects. Therefore, it is important to choose your job references carefully.